Are you the primary caregiver for a loved one who started to understand that at times it seems like that being a caregiver can be more difficult than being a patient? If that's the case, then today's Transplant Helper is just for you, as we're going to be discussing 5 things you need to do in order to maintain your sanity as a caregiver. Stay tuned. Hey folks, welcome to Transplant Helper today. My name is Jim Merle. Now you may be looking at me after seeing several of my episodes already and thinking to yourself, Jim, what do you really know about being a caregiver? Well, as a matter of fact, and in some ways, I've been a caregiver longer than I've been a patient. And that really goes back to about 15 plus years ago when my wife fell ill with a condition known as hypokalemic periodic paralysis, which was unknown at the time, and that is that from time to time she becomes paralyzed even from the neck down. And so because of that, in one sense, I've for many, many years been her primary caregiver when that condition arises and when it overtakes her body. So because of that, yes, I've got a little bit of experience as being a caregiver myself. And so I wanted to share with you the 5 things that I've learned over time. And trust me, I learned them the hard way, but 5 things I've learned over time can help to maintain our sanity as a caregiver. So here we go. Well, number 1, and that is in order to be a good caregiver and to maintain your own sanity, your mental state, you have to ask for help. That is, you are the primary caregiver. I understand that. Most likely, you're the most closely related to the person. You may be the person who you feel like has the most love and concern for that person, but there are times when you have to ask for help. Now, sometimes there are people who come in and out of your lives, other friends, other family members who are constantly saying to you, hey, if I can help you out, let me do it. Let me know what I can do. But more times than not, if you've been in the boat that I have, or in this case, since that time, the boat my wife's been in concerning my condition, we, both of us actually, turn to those people typically and say, you know what, we're fine, we got it, we can handle it. But the truth is, in the back of our minds, when we face reality and we consider the situation in hindsight, we actually don't really need to be handling it all the time. And I even mentioned the preceding episode I did concerning 3 ways to be a better caregiver, that there are times when to be the best caregiver you can be means delegating the caregiver status to someone else. So let me say in the onset, with that clearly stated then, as a caregiver, if you want to maintain your sanity, you're going to have to ask others for help. Let them step in, let them take over, let them assist in any way they can, and that will help you out a lot. Now, here we go. Principle number 2, and that is kind of like that. In order to be a better caregiver and maintain your sanity, you need to schedule time for yourself. And I don't mean by that just scheduling time to go out and run some errands, to go pick up some groceries, to go here, go there for you and your patient. I mean scheduling time for yourself, when you can say, okay, here's a blocked off amount of time on this day in this hour or these hours when I need to go and do something just for me. And that's going to involve, obviously, bringing in someone else to take over as the caregiver during that time, to be your fill-in, to be your patch, to kind of fill the shoes that you would typically fill. But I think it's so important. When we become the caregiver to someone, basically 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and we're totally focused in on their condition, and worries and our concerns and our stresses are all based on this other person, we tend to lose sight of who we are and who we need to be. So let me encourage you to schedule time away. Go ahead, pull out a clock, pull out a calendar, sit down and say, okay, 1 day a week or 2 days a week or 1 or 2 hours a week, however much you need or feel like you need, I'm going to be away. Someone else has to fill my role. I think that's very important. So that's one of the things I can offer. Now, number 3, if you want to be a better caregiver and maintain your own mental state, you need to exercise. You need to exercise. I know sometimes one of the primary roles as a caregiver, albeit we're doing a lot, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of physicalities involved. A lot of times our time as being a caregiver really consists of a patient laying over here, our loved one laying over here in a bed, or sitting in a recliner or what have you. And we're kind of doing the same thing. We're just kind of looking over them, just trying to make sure everything's okay. In some cases, listening for their breathing, making sure the medications are ready. But a lot of times that ends up being just kind of stagnant times for us. The television's on, they're watching a program, we're watching the program, neither one of us are doing anything. But let me encourage you that it is very, very important to get your exercise in order to maintain your sanity and your mental state as a caregiver, because you can just run yourself just start raving mad, if you will, by doing nothing. And getting exercise not only gets your blood flowing, it does a lot for your heart rate, your blood pressure, for your mental status, and everything can be affected by that. So exercise. And if that can involve the patient, then surely go ahead and do that. Like in my case, post-transplant, when I was walking those halls throughout the hospital and throughout everything, the transplant center, my wife was there at my side. So we were both benefiting from that exercise, and that's something you need to do. Now, number 4, I would encourage you, if you want to maintain your sanity as a caregiver, join a support group of some kind. Now, if that is jumping in on some of these Facebook groups like I'm members of, which are heart transplant or organ transplant / caregiver groups, jump in there. Let them know, hey, I'm not the patient here, I'm just a family member, and I promise you there are many, many people there can help. But sometimes, and more times than not, I would encourage you to go farther than that, and that is, rather than just digitally through a computer or through the internet reaching out to people, start reaching out to these physical support groups. Most transplant centers or most hospitals around have some sort of a support group that goes along with family members, that goes along with caregivers specifically, where you can go and sit down and spend time with people who are kind of going through similar things than what you are. And I know that will be a tremendous help. Oftentimes what we need as much as anything in life is just knowing that, yes, there are other people who are dealing with the same things we are. And so therefore we can kind of vent, we can kind of, let our feelings out there. We can get some feedback and get somebody to kind of lean on our shoulders and hold up our hands. That's what we really need. So I think that's huge in this, into being a better caregiver and maintaining our sanity. Now, number 5, and the final one here, is that in order to be the best caregiver you can and maintain your sanity, you have to use humor. You've got to use humor. You've got to look for the funny times. Now, I'm not talking about making fun of your loved one or picking at them, which, by the way, my wife would probably say I'm pretty good at. I'm a picker. I'm not really talking about that. I'm talking about there are going to be things that arise every day in your life that, for lack of better terms, are just downright funny. Things that you ought to laugh at, things that you ought to find the bright side of, and just go ahead and do that. Involve your loved one with that if they can. If they're not able, maybe they're asleep, laugh it off. Laughter is a great, great medicine, especially when you're kind of stressed out, when you're pushed to wit's end, when your candle's burning at both ends. Laughter can help. And so I want to encourage you to do that. So to kind of go back through these, number 1, ask for help. Number 2, schedule time away. Number 3, exercise. Number 4, join a support group. And number 5, laugh or have fun when you can. I promise you. I've learned the hard way and through much experience. These are things I've discovered, at least I wanted to share, that can help you out a lot. Now, let me offer you something here toward the end, and let me say as a disclaimer, I'm not involved in this at all, but I did promise a good friend I would bring it to your attention, and that is I want you to hit what you're going to see on the screen right now, and then the link below it, I want you to hit up Amazon.com, and while you're there, be searching for a book that's been written by Lynn Robitaille. Now, Lynn Robitaille is a caregiver, has been for many, many years, as she had to be the primary caregiver for her daughter as she fell ill and eventually received her transplant. She's got an entire book written entitled Strength in a Heartbeat that really goes into all the emotions, all the ins and outs of living that life as a caregiver, as well as going through the journey of transplant with her daughter. It's a wonderful read. I can highly recommend it. You can find it on Amazon right now. It's about $16. At times it's even discounted cheaper than that, but I promise you it's worth the reading. Now again, she's not doing anything for me as far as paying me to say this. I'm saying this because I can guarantee you it's a good book. She does happen to be a friend of mine. She's a part of the transplant community, but she's done a wonderful work. So if you can click on the link below or just find it on Amazon. Again, the name is Strength in a Heartbeat. I promise you it'll be worth your time and you'll be glad you did. Now, if this program today has helped you in any way, how about go ahead and like, subscribe, and share? And while you're there, how about leave a comment below? I would love to hear about your experiences as a caregiver or as a patient, how your caregiver dealt with you, and some of the things that you did to try to maintain your sanity, because this is all about building a community where I can fulfill my duty to advocate, educate, and motivate you as a transplant patient while encouraging you to do the same. So thank you so much for joining me today. And for all of you, caregiver or patients, stay stronger, friends.